Hello, I am coming to you from Earth. It is it's July 12th. I just got home from seeing Thor: Love and Thunder. I went. Why? Because I was able to finagle it for $5. So I am going to do a quick sum up of how I got here. I'm gonna do my initial ideas first. Everything's gonna kind of have spoilers in it, possibly, so don't listen to me if you haven't seen it, but I'm gonna go in depth after I give my first bite of what I think. So, spoilers, right? And firstly, my first big thing coming out of that movie, I went in, okay, I watched all the MCU movies up until Endgame. I think right now I'm only missing, I haven't watched some of the series. I am missing the second Doctor Strange. I didn't see that yet. I intend to. So I've seen all the Thors. The first two, I hated them. Ragnarok was great, of course. And over Infinity War and Endgame, I've said previously that I thought that if I was an Oscar, I would have nominated Chris Hemsworth, because I thought over those two movies, I know there was something of an idea, oh, what if, they nominated Robert Downey Jr. I don't know what's going on there. But I was like, no. I mean, yeah, they CGI'd him skinny, but the actual story and plot and character arc was best for Thor, and Chris Hemsworth did an amazing job, going through all that crap that he did. So, and I really enjoy the bromance between Chris Pratt and Chris Hemsworth behind the scenes and within the movie, especially within Infinity War. That's one of the best parts of the whole thing, is that that scene where they find him, right? So, going in, I'm thinking, I really was starting to, I thought I was going to skip this movie for financial reasons and other reasons. But also, I was like, I kept seeing them, and I'm like, I can't. And then Christian Bale is like one of my favorite actors, just in general. I mean, he's the best actor of his generation. Whether, objectively speaking, whether it's my favorite or not of our generation, I'm like 2 months older than him or something. So, I think objectively speaking, he is my favorite. No, I think it's Benicio, but I think Benicio is our generation. If you don't think so, then maybe, I don't know, whatever. Anyways, then I'm seeing it, and they're saying how great he is, and he's this villain, and I'm like, oh, I forgot he was in it. Oh no, how am I gonna not go? How am I gonna not go? And I'm like, so I'm expecting to go. Everybody's saying he's amazing, right? And obviously, most people have seen it who intend to see these kind of things on opening weekend, because opening weekend went by. So I'm like, all right. So I finagled myself a ticket, and I said, I'm going. Whatever happens, happens. So, but I'm expected to be floored by Christian Bale, right? My overwhelming, oh my god, this is amazing feeling was Russell Crowe as Zeus. Now, you saw that he was in it. I've seen the trailers and stuff like that, but he was so amazing as Zeus, and I'll get into that further later on. But yeah, so my favoriteest thing of the whole movie is him as Zeus. Of course, Christian Bale's amazing. Natalie Portman, I'm not a fan of hers. I have been watching her since The Professional. She at times is a great actress, but I don't know if it's the I think it has something to do with the fantasy aspect, because she stunk up the prequels, and I didn't think she was very good in these movies either. So we'll go on to that some more. There was a lot that was off. There was a lot of crappy stuff in this movie. There was a lot of super duper brilliant stuff in this movie. So, what I'm going to say, because the brilliant parts are so brilliant, I'm giving this movie a 9 out of 10. Yes, that's what I said. A 9 out of 10. Now, I am going to go on in depth. So this is definitely not for anybody who hasn't seen it. Okay? Okay, so I have my trusty notes that I'm going to read off of. Let's just real quick. The trailers I saw. I saw Bullet Train. I think it was a new trailer because there was some Mexican stuff I don't remember from the other trailers unless I forgot already. I really want to see that. Some Helen Mirren movie. I think it's supposed to be about the kids, but it was about her. It was Nazi times. I don't know. Nope, this was another trailer. I think Michael Wincott was in it, and I'm like, he's in that movie? I didn't know that because I've always liked him. I don't remember where I first saw him, but I always liked him. Some movie about samurai cats. I don't know. Some cartoon movie. Black Adam. I didn't pay attention because I don't like The Rock. The David O. Russell trailer that we just saw, Amsterdam. I think the next one was called Strange World. I don't know. And then there may have been an Avatar trailer, and I just didn't pay attention because I didn't like the second Avatar. I mean, I didn't like the first Avatar. So how you like them apples? Anyway, the film itself. Let's see. Let me check my notes real quick. Let me read it, so I'm not sitting here like this trying to read it because old ladies don't have reading glasses. Yeah, okay, so it starts with Christian Bale's in the desert, and then he's got his little kid, and then the little kid dies, and then all of a sudden he ends up, I don't even know how he got to some like lush paradise kind of place, and there was gigantic fruits, and you know, all of a sudden there was this like figure, this holy type person wearing a bunch of, you know, adornments and whatnot, and he called him the bringer of light or whatever. But the dude was laughing at him because he suffered, and he was like, oh, you know, now I'm gonna have a what do you call it, shit, how did they phrase it? People always say reward in the afterlife or whatever. And he's like, ha ha ha, no you're not. So he got fed up and he renounced this god, but there was some kind of necro sword sitting there. I guess the god had killed the guy who had the sword before, and he was laying there, and the sword was laying there, and then as Christian Bale was renouncing this guy, and then he's like choking him, like, you know, he's picking him up and choking him, the sword like comes up like some kind of crazy Excalibur god killing sword, and Bale grabs it. Well, his name's Gore grabs it and he gets the guy, right? So what's this say? See, this is what I mean. It didn't feel like a curse, it felt like a promise, he said, when he got these powers. And that was like before the trailer, before the credits. So that was the beginning of the movie. But what did he say? All gods will die. Yeah, it was really super, super awesome before the opening credits scene. I think there was one or two in one of the Avengers, or two of the Avengers, or something. I don't know. Was that first scene with Loki before the opening credits in Infinity War? Maybe. I'm not sure, but that was just amazing. As the kids say, it was a banger. So then, yeah, what next? Korg is telling the story of Thor growing up. And, okay, this should start, there was a little bit too much Taika Waititi for me in this movie, and I know that doesn't make any sense. But I kind of got over Korg a while back. He was cute and Ragnarok, yeah, or whatever, but then I kind of got over him. So Korg, I think he does it 3 times where he, like, either updates people or tells them the story. Like, he tells them the story of Thor growing up and how he hung out with Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that to set up the scene here, right? And later on, he tells them about Thor and what's-her-face dating. And it was just like, I didn't like that. I didn't like the... Because most of us have watched all the movies. We know what we need to know. And it just seemed kind of, I don't know. And the whole, this first beginning, I don't like to say the first act, because I don't analyze things in a 3-act structure or any of that crap. But the first third of the movie, not maybe first quarter of the movie, who knows, that the beginning was kind of iffy, you know. So they're talking about Thor playing Enya, and they use the music quite a bit, and we're gonna get into a problem I have pretty soon. I liked how he was being, you know, all spiritual and this is the crap I do, which is a waste of time. But So I'm sitting there and I'm trying to get into it, and I'm like, Jesus, you know, that whole scene in the beginning with Christian Bale kind of made me forget this was a Thor movie. I was just waiting for more Christian Bale already. But like I said, I love Chris Hemsworth as Thor. So, you know, anyways, I put in some details like him riding Stormbreaker like a broom, like a witch's broom. But yeah, those basket head people, I'm not sure who they were, and I don't know who the actor was who was the lead basket head person. I don't know what their names are, or their country, or their planet, or whatever. I didn't like the whole opening battle. Like I wasn't into it because my brain was still back there with Christian Bale. And yeah, it was Welcome to the Jungle, which, you know, there was, I forget which song was, I think a couple of the songs were in the trailers. I don't know if they made some kind of deal with Guns N' Roses where they had to play 3 songs, or they wanted 3 songs, or whatever. I supposed towards the end that perhaps Taika Waititi was listening to Guns N' Roses over and over again as he wrote the script or something. I don't know, because to have 3 Guns N' Roses songs in there, and I'm gonna say where one I thought was really, I was really like over it. But I mean, the thing is, I love those songs just as much as anybody else. I grew up, you know, I graduated from high school in 1991, so I was very much of that age to like Guns N' Roses and all that stuff. And you know, then there's this scene where you were supposed to be like, oh, you know, so we're just stuck with Natalie Portman for a while, and she's sickly, obviously, and then she's getting chemo, and she's sitting next to a kid, and then she starts doing the thing where she's going to explain folding space to him by folding the paper, and I'm like, is this a joke on how many times it's been in the movies, or why are we doing this? And it was, there was a lot going on in the beginning, things where they're trying to set up something, or they're trying to make you feel a thing, and I'm just like, it's just aggravating me. What does it say? Oh, I know what it says. I can't read my own handwriting because I'm a horrible person. Literally sitting there, and I'm gonna tell you the truth. And I don't do this in real life. This is because it was a character in a movie. When I saw her sitting in the chair, obviously getting chemo, I was like, oh, I hope she dies. Now, I don't do that in real life, and I would never say that about a real person. But when I was fully entrenched as a Star Wars fan in the prequels and stuff like that, she was making those movies. She used to kind of diss those movies, or diss the filmmaking process of being on a green screen and all that stuff at the time. So if she did it back then to make a lot of money, but then when she showed up again in the MCU, I'm like, oh really? You know what I mean? I thought she was too good for that sort of thing. So the fact that she's still in these things, and I just feel like a part of me feels like she kind of sucks in them, because I don't feel like she gives it the respect it deserves. I don't think she takes it seriously. You know what I mean? It's like there's some bits of acting in this movie that were so bad from her that I'm like, I don't care how much you think you're in a silly movie for children or whatever you think it is. You don't want to be looking like that up on the screen, because that's still part of your filmography. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so like I said, there was too much Guns N' Roses. Then there was, this is another one, I don't know what they were trying to do, because there was a scene where it was like, I don't know if you remember in Rocky 2 or Rocky 3, both of them, where he's doing a lot of commercials and stuff, and it looks stupid. So there was a scene where Tessa Thompson is doing stuff like that. She's doing an Old Spice commercial, and I'm just like, what? I don't understand what they're trying to tell me here. Like, why is this here? I really didn't understand. Then they have those 3 doing their play again, Matt Damon and Sam Neill and Luke Hemsworth. First I thought it was like a national touring company, but they just, when the people come to New Isengard or whatever it's called, is that it? No, Isengard. Asgard. Old ladies can't remember things like this. At least I don't mix up Matt Damon and Leonardo DiCaprio. So Yeah, so, oh, and I was waiting to find out who was going to be Hela. It was kind of funny that it was Melissa McCarthy, but apparently they put on plays for the tourists when they come. You know what I mean? And I guess that was supposed to be funny because there's another little scene with them, with Hemsworth and Matt Damon, like they're being like the, you know, stereotypically gay theater directors. So, yeah, what is this? I wrote over my stuff. This is what I mean about being an old lady. Because, yeah, no, this is writing in the dark. I wrote right over something, like in the same spot. So I really wasn't getting engaged with the movie still. I'm not clicking in, you know. And that whole thing with the Guardians, they just kind of went away. Like, because that was so, I wasn't engaged and stuff like that. And we saw the clip of him and Chris Pratt in the trailer. It was kind of like, I didn't, you know what I mean? It was just gone before I was even paying attention. So, the people called him the God of Disaster. There were all these funny little quips here and there, but I was looking at him, I'm like, his muscles are way too big now. I don't know what they're doing to these guys. I don't know why they've decided to make them all bodybuilder looking, because I thought he looked perfect in, you know, all this time, and in Infinity War, well, in Endgame he was fat Thor, but you know what I mean, in Infinity War and everything leading up to there, now his muscles are way too big. You know what I mean? It looks like this is the turkey you want to buy for Thanksgiving, instead of, you know, that's a hot guy or whatever. And yeah, so like I said, they were trying to have some kind of a moment, and he was explaining to him about, and Star-Lord was explaining to him how the shitty feeling is better than empty feeling, which I guess sets up the romantical type scene towards the end. But Thor's telling him all about how, you know, Thor's really conceited about how much those guys love him, and, you know, he just feels like a completely happier, different person when Chris Pratt's around, let's tell you. And the Asgardian High One really made me laugh. But like I said, those cute little things. Maybe you're, oh, when he said to, what's her name? I forgot her name. Seth, I don't remember what her name was. He said maybe your arm is in Valhalla. That was pretty funny. Nope, no idea what this handwriting. This is why I don't want to do this one now. Oh, I wrote bailed in there because that was like he had destroyed wherever the hell she was. And Gore in the Moon. So yeah, so then they do another Christian Bale part, which is, it's like a totally different tone. So up to that point, the stuff with Matt Damon and all the stuff on New Asgard, at first I was like, I think I'm not understanding a couple things here and there, and a little bit more with that group. It seems like maybe they cut stuff out. Maybe there was even more of it, and they cut it out. So there's some things that, you know, like referencing like stuff that had, not big references, but like nodding to things that had happened that didn't actually happen. You know what I mean? You're like, what are they talking about? So, because they went back to Christian Bale on, there was some kind of a moon or some kind of a planet in the background. So yeah, so he comes to, I don't even know where they were. There was a little kid, and I guess that was Heimdall's son. And they were in a place, maybe that was New Asgard, I don't know. It was nighttime, and it looked like Norway or something. I don't know. It looked like some kind of village, Swiss village, or like graham cracker houses or whatever. Then all of a sudden, like, Gore was there because he was gonna, I guess they were fighting. I don't really know what was going on. It seemed like the Valkyries and stuff were showing up, and I guess Jane was different. Stuff was going on, and I'm like, what's going on? I don't understand. Why, you know, am I supposed to know where I am? I'm supposed to know what's happening. And like I said, I don't know if something was cut out that would explain that. I'm just supposed to know. So I was like, I don't understand why they're fighting. And then we did see the part where she decides she's going to try to use Thor's hammer to get healed from her cancer or whatever. So now it's supposed to be a big reveal that she's Lady Thor, but they put it in every stinking trailer. They made a big stink about it, so we've all seen the reveal. So who cares? It has no impact in the movie. You don't have impact, you know, 50 years from now we're all dead and somebody catches it on late night TV, if there's TVs, or their late night brain screen or whatever, however people watch movies, and they don't know anything about it. There was an ABBA song in there. So I guess at some point he had told Mjolnir, however you say it, to protect her. And then I was like, does she wear wigs? Her hair looked strange back in the Star Wars days. I thought she had burnt it or something. But since that, even still, sometimes her hair looked very strange. So I don't know what's going on there. Probably not supposed to ask questions like that because they don't look natural sometimes. Just, they look very glued on. Like, you could almost see the bottom. You know, like if you've seen a wig, it's got that webbing and stuff. Yeah, like I said, and then he did another one of these. Okay, so here's the story of, like, when these two were in love. Again, that whole thing, I didn't like it at all. So I was very iffy on this movie at this point. Oh, and then they were talking to each other. Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth. And right under their eyes, I'm like, I think they gave them CGI plastic surgery. Like they went in and airbrushed the bags under their eyes because they both look like Nicole Kidman all of a sudden. Yeah, so then there was the part with Matt Damon and another guy acting very, yeah. And then Stormbreaker gets jealous because, Thor is obsessed with Mjolnir still, which is kind of funny too. Again, I don't like Tessa Thompson. I had to write that down to myself. But she didn't suck or anything. I just am not a fan. Natalie Portman was sucking the whole way. I don't know what the hell was wrong with her. I don't know why she suddenly was just, a lot of her scenes were bad. Oh, and then after the CGI, like airbrushing under here, that made them look like Nicole Kidman, she had way too much makeup on. And I guess it was them trying to make the difference between the horrible, horrible makeup they had on her to make her look more like she'd been dead for 3 weeks when she's supposed to be sickly with the cancer, compared to when she's got the hammer and she's Lady Thor. And, but having all that makeup on, making her look like some cancer patient or somebody who's trying to cover a lot of shit up. So, there was a huge amount of makeup. And this is one of those things, when Wonder Woman came out, I remember people being confused about why James Cameron kind of dissed it. And I thought he was dissing it because she was so gorgeous and made up and coiffed and everything, instead of looking fuzzy like his female heroines, like Linda Hamilton did in the Terminator movies, or like he did Aliens, right? Did he do it? Well, anyway, Sigourney Weaver. Did he do Aliens? The Alien movies? Anyway, the point is those two women were badass and they beat people up and they had like little to no makeup on. They were natural looking. So now you've got Lady Thor and she's got on more makeup than all the Kardashians combined. So, and this is at the point where I'm like, they must have cut something because they're just, I don't know. It was really weird. And they said they don't feed on kids anymore, which was a shame because I would have liked to have seen that in a Disney movie. Yeah, so then when she's being Thor, she's like walking, and I don't know what she was doing. Like, she's trying to walk tough or stuff. I don't know. I was just like, what is wrong with her? Like, the way she was walking and trying to be cool or badass or like Thor, you know what I mean? And I was like, it reminded me of years ago when she did that, like it was supposed to be angry rap and it was supposed to be funny because she was all toughy, and I was like, she didn't look remotely toughy to me. Like, she just looked silly, like somebody throwing a tantrum. So there's being tough if you can, and then there's acting like you're being tough, which can come across, and then there's whatever she was doing. And oh, so then Christian Bale does his own story time where he's telling the kids stories, and that was lovely and beautiful. and wonderful, and it was so not like the story times that we were being told by Taika Waititi, which were stupid. So, like I'm saying, obviously it's his movie, he wrote it, but the parts where I actually heard him was a bit much. What's that little dumpling thing in the pan that said or whatever it said? That was hilarious and cute. And then they started chanting for Zeus, which I did as well. Where am I at? Yeah, so the gorgeous and talented and lovely Russell Crowe was just completely amazing. I literally was laughing out loud. No rushing Zeus's bum was a good line. And that's when I said I would really love a Gore and Zeus like buddy movie, because those two were fantastic, the characters, and of course, you know, you've got Oscar winners in here, and like I said, I already thought Hemsworth was so great in the other movie, so you've got talent here, and you know what I mean. But in comparison, even in that scene with Zeus and where he, you know, destroys Thor's clothes and all that stuff, Natalie Portman was terrible. Now she's sitting there with Tessa Thompson. I don't like Tessa Thompson, but she wasn't sucking. Natalie Portman was sucking. Everything about it was like overdid. I don't know, like she thinks being funny is like being stupid or being ridiculous or being really like broad. I don't know how to explain it. But with that scene and everything Russell Crowe did, I was like, is he doing an impression of Antonio Banderas? That whole scene just drew me into the movie, snapped me out of whatever I was in, where I was like, oh, this movie's not so great. I mean, to me, I'm like, he just saved this movie. But from here on in, most of the rest of the movie is great. So that beginning part, before we get to Russell Crowe, save the Gore, Christian Bale awesomeness, was mostly like, okay, what's going on? This feels off. Did they skip something? Are they cutting too much? What did they add things? It just seemed a little, there was something off in there. And then he decides to rush his bum. I don't know. I will need to watch that scene over and over again, because I'm not going to be able to rewatch the whole movie for a while, until it's on video probably, if I'm able to do it then. But I did think Korg was murdered. Apparently he only needs his face. So that was interesting and that was fun. But again, not the story time voiceover thingies. And then they have the scene with Thor and girly Thor on the ship, and I guess it's the, what is it, the Rainbow Bridge or whatever, but it kind of looks like the Northern Lights, so it's all beautiful and they're there, and she's like, it's supposed to be a romantic scene, and I immediately got flashbacks of Attack of the Clones, the scene, I hate sand, it gets everywhere. Everybody gave Hayden shit for that, but I was like, you know what? These two don't have any chemistry. Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman don't have any chemistry. I said that right there, right then and there. And I'm like, that's not all his fault. So I'm sitting here watching her with Chris Hemsworth. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm getting flashbacks. Again, I mean, they've been in 3 movies together now, or 4. And I'm like, was she in Ragnarok? I don't remember. But I'm like, there's no chemistry here, you know? The man has incredible chemistry with Chris Pratt, you know it, but this is what I'm saying. So, you know, it's not, can somebody do chemistry or not? And I'm trying to think of it. I'm like, I don't know that I've seen her have chemistry with anybody else, except maybe Jean Reno back when she was 12 or whatever, but, and she didn't really then either. But that was meant to be. So I'm like, maybe it's her, because that scene was reminding me so much of that scene where they're in, what was it, Lake Como, and they're in I'm out of focus, and they're at the, what do you call it, balcony, and it's supposed to be romantic, and it wasn't, and everybody put it on Hayden Christensen. I think it's her. I don't think she has chemistry with people. You find me the movie where she's got great chemistry with somebody and you buy it. Where am I at? Okay, so then it goes black and white. almost all the black and white stuff, and I stopped writing because I got into it. That was pretty amazing. Listen for a second. I'm gonna stop for a second. I stopped and started again because it seems like when I tape for more than 20 minutes, it freezes. I don't know what it is. So, at one point she says the Bifrost is the key. Now, like I said, I watched all the movies. They're sitting there explaining their whole romance and stuff like that. I'm still not sure I know what the Bifrost is. Is the Bifrost the Rainbow Bridge? Are they two separate things? Which is which? I don't know. Anyway, she said it's the key or something. I don't know why. Then I really started writing bad because it was dark, because it was in black and white. Oh yeah, then there's the part where he's explaining to them, where Gore's explaining to them why they shouldn't even be. What do you care about the gods for? You know, he's telling what's her face about how the Valkyries died. Didn't you ask the gods? And you know, and he's telling Thor and all them about everything, and he's got a point. But he goes and he so Christian Bale goes and he's got his arms around Chris Hemsworth. I'm like, stay right there. And this is awesome. I love this. I was like, this is the movie I want to see. Put it this way, it was hot. But yeah, so everything Gore was saying, I'm like, I agree with him too much. This is why I have a negative attitude, and I can't. 48 years on this earth and watching how it is, and being a spiritual person myself who used to go to church all the time, I agree with Gore often enough, should I really say. But they started fighting, and there was lightning and all, and it looked great. It looked really, really amazing. And this whole part, to me, was like an 11. That whole situation. And I think Chris Hemsworth was great when he does the emotional stuff. I really do. But then, suddenly, November Rain comes on. And I'm like, oh god, not again, because I think you should have different music. Maybe have different music in the trailer than in the movie, because now I'm already exhausted from Guns N' Roses by the time the first song comes on. I'm like, okay, I'm thinking there's going to be other songs. And there was the Enya and the ABBA. And maybe something else in there. But now it's November Rain for the big battle. And I was like, why November Rain? And I love November Rain. I mean, in the history of music videos, I think it's Thriller. And then November Rain. And maybe Wild Boys. I don't know. But I was like, I don't want this here. And I was just like, okay. And then I realized, because of what happened and stuff like that, maybe, you know, then I said maybe he was listening to a bunch of Guns N' Roses when he wrote the script. But there was something that connected, the lyrics connected exactly with what was happening. It had to do with Jane. Yeah, everything she did. Now, I'm writing again about her because she's trying to be a badass, and it's not working. It just doesn't work. I gotta read. Look at, you want to see how bad this is? Look at this handwriting. It's what the dark does, I'm telling you. Okay, so I had stopped writing. So everything happens, and Thor goes to the thing, and they try to figure out, you know, that he wants her to stay there, and then she ends up fighting. That's what happened. So, they always include the cancer stuff. Like I said, to me, that's how they roped people into the first Guardians of the Galaxy, because I didn't like that movie at all. But I felt like they used sympathy points for everybody who ever had somebody die of cancer, which is almost everybody, with the mom story. So, now Natalie Portman's got, so it's like, I don't know. So, she was supposed to not help out, but then he needed help. So, but it looks great and everything, but again, she's not a badass. She doesn't have badassery in her. Is she a strong female? I'm not saying she's not a strong female. Badassery, don't know. So then, I mean, I guess she loses, and then I don't know where they go, where it's all clouds and shit, or where Thanos and them went at that time, when it was like after he did the snap. I mean, I don't know where these people go. Some netherworld. I don't know if it's a transitional place, like in Harry Potter, or with the thing with the you-know-who, and, you know. So I wasn't sure at first what was happening, and Christian Bale standing in front of this, like, figure that looks like stars and cosmos, and I'm like, what is that? And then I realized, oh, that's the infinity he was trying to get to, but nobody told me. So then I had to kind of put together what was happening, you know, to try to remember back, and okay, this is that, and blah, blah, blah. I had to remember back to, again, Russell Crowe's speech about, oh, he's trying to get to the infinity so he can make a wish, because if you go to the infinity and you make a wish, or whatever, you can do whatever you want. He's like, oh, he's going to kill all the gods at once, but because she was dying in Thor's arms, he was like, no, you just want love, so wish for something else. So he, like, hints him to wish for his daughter to be alive. He's like, but I'm dying, she'll be alone. At which point, Thor's like... So, I'm like, okay, so Natalie will die, and, you know, Gore will die, which sucks, because Gore's awesome. And he'll raise the kid. Fine, whatever. It's nice, and it's love, and all this crap. You know, love and crap. Should have called it Thor Love and Crap. But there was a point somewhere in the story where, I think it was in the black and white part earlier, where, Gore says to girly Thor, we're on the same path. And I had one of those moments where I'm like, yes, they are. Because I remember, as a film fan and somebody who always loved the Oscar race, that Christian Bale and Natalie Portman won their Oscars on the same night. Because it used to be great. I always used to like to see, like, at the end of the night, when it's, you know, the show's over and they're going to parties and you're looking online for pictures and stuff. I always used to like to see the picture of the 4 actors who won that night. So, I always remembered that they won in the same year. And their characters were on the same path, and it was interesting that they're in this together and everything. But, yeah. I didn't want him to die. I thought it was pretty awesome. And then, of course, Thor was going to raise the kid. But, see, even Thor, as a parent, this is how parents are raising the kids now. She, like, draws, and she doesn't want to wear her shoes, so she doesn't have to. She doesn't want to she doesn't want to eat pancakes. She doesn't want to, he's just acquiescent. That's why these kids are all nuts now, the 20-year-olds, because that's how their parents were. My generation, you know, deferred to the children and let them do what they wanted to do. So she paints pretty makeup on Mjolnir, and he's like, oh, it's not coming off, oh well. You know, anyway, the kid was cute. I could have done without them running off together to go fight crime or whatever. Because, again, that's too much of a girl power thing. It was cool all the times they had kids and they empowered the kids and stuff like that. But that time was a little bit, it's ham-fisted. So then, they do the end credits and stuff like that. And I almost lost my mind. Because the end credits started, or right before the end credits, or right after the beginning of the end credits, I start here, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's Rainbow in the Dark. And I was like, oh my god, Rainbow in the Dark would have been perfect over that last fight part where they had, right where they had November Rain. Rainbow in the Dark would have been freaking perfect. You know what I mean? They should have had one Guns N' Roses song. You know what they could have done? Could have put November Rain somewhere else. Because they already had Sweet Child of Mine. And maybe Welcome to the Jungle in the trailers. Or just have whichever one they didn't have in the trailers. Have that. And then have the other people's songs for the rest of the movie. It was too much Guns N' Roses. Like I said, it didn't make sense to have 3 songs by the same group. I don't even think Martin Scorsese's done that with the Rolling Stones. And you know how he likes to use the Rolling Stones. So yeah, I was like, Rainbow in the Dark would have been perfect, like with them going, right? And the I know, really tough, right? But it would have been perfect over the final fight instead of the end credits. Whatever. So Zeus was like, oh, when did we become the joke? And then he's talking to, on the post-credit, and he's talking to Hercules. And I'm waiting to see Hercules. I'm like, who the hell's that guy? Was that like a stand-in Hercules and then they're going to cast somebody great later on? Or is that an actor I don't know? Because I was like, I don't know that guy. And he didn't look that big either. You know, at least Kevin Sorbo, I never watched that show. I don't like The Witcher because it reminds me of shows like Hercules and Xena, which I thought are cheap looking, like just people with swords and shit fighting near rocks and overgrown grass in the middle of no grass. But he looked like a Hercules type, Kevin Sorbo. I don't know that guy, and he did. I mean, unless it was a weird angle, he didn't look big. I don't know who he is. If I go look up his name and it's a name I know, I'll be like, why didn't I recognize him? But I'll have to do that. So Jane was all gold sparkles. I'm like, oh, what? She's alive? Then I saw Heimdall, and I'm like, is this Valhalla? Because honest to God, I'd love to go to Valhalla. I just got the last season of The Last Kingdom out of the library because I don't have Netflix, so I haven't seen it yet. But I love that show. I've watched other things where people want to go to Valhalla and they have to get their sword. Did she have her sword in her? Did she have... Well... Anyway. I'm like, I don't think it's the same rules. But... Yeah. I like that sort of thing. So that was pretty cool that it was Valhalla, as much as I didn't like her. Yeah. So yes. I did. There was so many brilliant parts. Everything with Christian Bale was brilliant, pretty much. Like I said, Russell Crowe stole the show as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if he was imitated Antonio Banderas or some other. I think it was supposed to be Italian sounding, but it did a lot. It was just amazing. I guess it was supposed to be Greek, but he was just fascinating. And Chris was great. Chris was great, but yeah, the scene with Russell Crowe is its own thing, right? And then the Christian Bale scenes are kind of their own thing. So the whole storyline when they weren't around was kind of off. Like I said, either they cut things out and then what was supposed to be an even longer story, or they try to shove things in to be cool or cute or winky. Though, like I said, the voiceover parts with Taika Waititi was too much. And what else? Yeah, so that's it. I loved it, most of it. Well, I really loved some of it, and there's other stuff that I'm like, oh. You know what I mean? But I think I will end up liking it best out of the Thor movies because of the brilliant part, because it elevates it. It doesn't elevate it, because it has those parts in it. Just like Thor the Ragnarok. There's a lot of stuff in Ragnarok I wasn't that big of a fan of Kate Blanchett in it. Honestly, and don't call me misogynist. It just was like sometimes people act weird when they're not in Oscar-y type movies. She was okay, but there were a couple. Rewatching Ragnarok, it doesn't hit quite as much as it does the first time, but there's a lot in here that I'm like, I'm gonna like this part for a long time, especially like those battle scenes, like in the black and white and everything. Everything with gore. Everything with gore was great. There needed to be more of him, quite frankly, and he wasn't that scary. I don't know if they were worried about him being too scary for the kids. I'd love to see kids frightened by him. I mean, I guess he could be frightening just to look at him, because they made him look scary. But I thought he was just awesome. You know. Yeah. So, what else to say? I mean, like I said, I complained about the music. The costumes are costumes. Yeah. 9 out of 10, because there were a lot of parts that were 6 or 5. And then there was a lot of 11. A lot of 11.